Hey, so welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally, and today I'm going to talk to you about authenticity. But I want to focus the word authentic in terms of its use in the PBL learning activity. Now, of course, you know me, I'm all about project-based learning because it has tremendous value to me just as an educator and as a learner myself, lifelong learner. But I want to talk to you about what it means to have authenticity in terms of the PBL learning experience in the classroom. And this doesn't really matter as to what grade level or age of your students or what subject you're talking about in the classroom. This addresses all of that. We're just going to take a look at its philosophical perspective and the four elements that make a PBL learning activity authentic. And so the first one I want to talk about just real quickly is that it needs to be real world. So I don't necessarily like to use the word real world problem, but I do like to use the word real world need because in the classroom, we're not trying to have students solve real world problems because some problems are just too big to solve. And I always use the metaphor in terms of, well, we're going to solve for world peace today. Well, we're not going to do that. And it shouldn't be that kind of focus. The focus should definitely be something that students can address, and it should be something that is impacting them directly or indirectly, meaning that it could be directly impacting them as individuals, or it could be impacting other students in the school, or it can be impacting people that they know in their neighborhood, and you get the idea. So one, it has to be real world, and two, it has to have impact and value to the students. So it has to be a point of interest, something that they are seeing or see other people being impacted by, and that makes it authentic. So it actually has a point of interest for them to want to know more about it. And so I always use my three students as examples. One is Timmy, one is Tammy, and one is Jessica. So Timmy, he's 11 years old, and the real world need that he wanted to address was the homelessness. He saw homeless people standing on the street corner every Saturday as him and his daddy went to the hardware store, Lowe's, on their weekly shopping trip. And so that was a point of interest that he wanted to know more about and that he was able to address. For Tammy, she saw that there were a lot of commercial and residential building projects in her city, in her area, and the wildlife was losing ground, literally and figuratively, losing ground to humans who were building up these structures. And that was a real concern for her. And then finally, Jessica, and she's the older high school student, and she had a talent for building things like her daddy, who was a master craftsman. And so she wanted to become an entrepreneur just like her dad. And that was a point of interest to her. It was a real something that impacted her directly, and it was a point of interest for her. So again, real world need and a somewhat point of interest and impact on the student. Number three, they need to be able to think critically and analytically about the situation. So they're going to do a deep dive research component to the project. They need to find out who's involved, what's going on, where, when, how, and do all those critical analytical thinking components to address the problem. And that's also what makes it authentic. And finally, they get to learn from industry experts. At least that's the intention. So, as part of setting this project up, a PBL project up in your classroom, you have to do all the prep work on the back end so that when your students are ready to talk to, they're going to learn directly from industry professionals, whoever they may be, scientists, politicians, business owners, all of that, anybody who's involved in the specific area that you're focused in Either they're solving the problem already or they're addressing it in some way. They need to learn from the industry professionals. So, four key elements that make a project-based learning activity authentic is that it's real world, it either directly or indirectly impacts the students, and it's a point of interest for them. They get to think critically and analytically about the situation in order to find a solution or address it in some way. And they're going to learn from industry professionals, subject matter experts who are already doing that as adults. So, with that, hopefully, this was of value to you, and I'll see you next time. Take care.